criminal informants. Now a newly released report uncovered by USA Today says...
Are you a successful confidential informant? Have you fully exploited your ability to disseminate information that can possibly lead to an arrest or prosecution?
What is the name of it? It is
Cosa Nostra in Italian.
Cosa Nostra in Italian.
Our thing and our family in English.
In most urban societies, it is believed that criminal activities should stay in the realm of criminals. Contradictory to the saying, there's no honor amongst thieves, criminals with integrity, for lack of a better word, follow an unwritten rule that states one cannot provide information to the local authorities that may result in the incarceration of another individual.
I'm saying, in my mind, I'm saying to my little man, yo, he's dead. He's done it. He just got hit with a .357.
Going back to the saying, there's no honor amongst thieves. It's abundantly clear why a criminal would find issue with following rules set by criminals. The name used for individuals who break the code of silence is a snitch, rat, informer, narc, 12, or fed. Even though these individuals are co-defendants to the crime you committed, this individual might one day agree to cooperate with authorities to bring down your operation in return for a lighter sentence or no prison time at all. If you suspect that one of your comrades might be an informant, we highly recommend that you do not bring harm to this individual who might in fact still be operating in the underworld undetected.
In this segment, Eat the Snakes, Informants Gone Rogue, we will be reviewing informants before and after indictment. Alpo Martinez, also known as Alpo.
I pulled up right here. He got into the van. He got into the van right here. And once he got into the van, I knew I had to lock. I locked the doors. And as I was pulling off, I was asking him, because it didn't take long after I pulled off, I was asking him like, yo, Rich, where did you get that Coke from, man? That shit was good, because I wanted to make him comfortable. That shit was good as a motherfucker. He's like, I got it from my Connect. So yeah. So from there, I knew he was lying. I turned to my little man. I gave him the nod. Once I gave him the nod, my little man spent, because he was short, so he could stand up in the van. Next thing you heard was the 2 gunshots, bang, bang. Richard slumped over, and it happened. It happened right here. It happened right here.
At this light?
At this light, it happened. I'm saying, in my mind, I'm saying to my little man, yo, he's dead. He's done it. He just got hit with a .357. Twice. The only sound I heard was, him releasing his breath. His last breath. So I'm assuming that he's dead. And I need to find a place to put his, leave his body without anyone seeing me.
Alpo Martinez was the real-life drug lord portrayed by the rapper Cameron in the 2002 movie Paid in Full. Born on June 8, 1966, he lived on the Spanish side of Harlem with his mother and sister. His path of dealing narcotics started at the age of 13 in the East Harlem section of New York, but would later expand all across NYC. His expansion was made possible after he linked up with West Side Harlem drug dealer AZ Faison, also known as AZ. An already psychotic and homicidal Alpo Martinez would move up the chain of drug dealers in Harlem and would eventually become one of the biggest drug dealers in New York City. Alpo was said to be a wild card, but when it came down to business, killing and the humiliation of his peers was his specialty. In the previous monologue, you can hear Alberto Alpo Martinez telling a story of a hit carried out on his business partner and short-term associate Rich Porter. Rich Porter, aka Money Mitch, was Alpo's co-kingpin in a thriving drug enterprise based in Harlem, New York. Rich Porter was allegedly fronted a few kilos of cocaine, which he needed to sell off fast enough to pay off the men that had his little brother held ransom. However, the streets were dry, and Alpo had other plans for the coke. After questioning Rich Porter on who from, when, and how many kilos were received from Rich's drug connect, Alpo felt he was being lied to and gave his gunner the signal to execute his business partner while in a moving vehicle. It was also alleged that Martinez showed up to his ex-business partner's funeral acting as if he had no idea what had happened.
It's just a pat, they know what they know what they think they know. But I was with the man.
Right.
I was with him. You know, I was with him. He talked to me. Me and Rich became real close, man. And a lot of that was true. You know, a lot of that was true when a lot of people were saying, yo, it had to be someone he really trusted to get close to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they had that right because he definitely was relaxed when he was with me. So, and you know, and like the family don't know it. And even after I did all that, and people may look at it as being crazy, I went to his viewing. I went to see him.
Right.
But they don't know that because I knew I was on a run. I knew the feds was gonna be there, so I went early in the morning before the joint even opened up and signed my name in the book on one big page to let them know, yeah, I was here too.
On one big page?
Yeah, you know how you gotta sign your name on the page?
Right.
I just wrote Alpo on one page, like, yeah. Because I told the man to open it up for me. I let him know. I said, yo, you know, open this joint up for me and let me in. Let me see before everybody start coming and all that.
Okay.
And I was at the joint. I seen him.
You wasn't worried about maybe the feds were going to be there early too?
You know what? It was raining. I kind of like took all that into my favor. I said it was raining. The kind of gear I had on. Because they had an old picture of me. They had a picture of me when I first got arrested. So they didn't really know how I was looking.
Right.
So I just went with, you know, it was rain. I had the rain gear on, a hat and all that. So I didn't really think they recognized. So I thought about it, but then I kind of like surveyed the area or whatever, see if I see any funny cars. So if they was going to get me, they would have to be in like the windows or in some apartments and all that.
Right, right.
And I hit the joint and went in. I still call him my man. I went to see my man. I went up in there, I seen him, and I cried and everything. Like, yo, that was something I regretted, man.
After being on the run from New York's judicial jurisdiction, Alpo's next stop would be Washington, D.C. After taking out one business partner and skipping town on the other, Alpo Martinez expands his operation to the DMV. There, he patronizes fellow members of the drug underworld until he himself becomes a victim of violence. He survives, and soon after, he appoints his number 2/hitman, Wayne Slick Perry. Wayneperry was a well-known hitter in Washington, D.C. who throughout his criminal career killed an estimated 100 people. He would even earn the title of the Michael Jordan of the murder game. With Wayneperry off the leash, Alpo would carry out a spree of assassinations and other acts of violence from D.C., Virginia, and New York. On November 7, 1991, Martinez was arrested in Washington, D.C. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, various drug charges, and 14 counts of murder, including the murder of D.C. drug dealer Michael Anthony Salters, aka Frey, and Brooklyn drug dealer Dementio Benson. Facing the possibility of either the death penalty or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and the possibility of his now ex-hitman putting a prison hit on him, Martinez turned informant and testified against members of his D.C. organization. For his testimony against his colleague Wayneperry, who would later receive 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, Martinez was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Martinez was released in 2015 after serving a 25-year sentence at ADX Florence, a federal supermax prison. Martinez abandoned his safe house in Maine and headed back to his old stomping grounds, Harlem, New York, in order to confront those who mocked him while he was away and allegedly go back to a life of crime, but instead of kilos and millions, the ex-kingpin was reduced to selling baggies of heroin. On October 31st, 2021, Alberto Alpo Martinez was killed in a drive-by shooting in Harlem, the same borough he had terrorized in the 80s, and despite being wounded, Martinez drove off, ultimately crashing into a car and stopping at around 147th Street. He was rushed to Harlem Hospital but could not be saved.
Cocaine ravished the concrete jungle from the early 80s well into the 90s. We often glorified big city gangsters like Alpo Martinez who made millions off cocaine and murder, but we never look into who created it. Where did it come from? Don't worry, we did some research. In 1860, Albert Friedrich Emil Niemann, a German chemist, extracted an active ingredient of coca leaves and named it cocaine. After his death, his work was taken over by his assistant Wilhelm Lossen, also a German chemist, who finally, in 1865, determined its proper chemical formula. Although the first observations concerning the effect of cocaine on mucous membranes were made by Niemann and Lossen, the first experimental studies involving the application of cocaine to animals were performed by the Peruvian surgeon Moreno y Mays. In 1880, Basil von Enrep published the results of his studies concerning the application of cocaine to humans. In the conclusion of his work, he recommended cocaine as a surgical anesthesia. It was finally Karl Kohler, an American chemist, who, in 1884, empirically demonstrated the benefits of cocaine use in medicine, most of all in ophthalmology. Subsequently, within a couple of months, the medical world learned about and got interested in the use of cocaine for local anesthesia. William Stewart Halstead, an American surgeon, and his collaborator Richard John Hall, an American surgeon that immigrated from Ireland, began their own research on cocaine injections. Eventually, they developed nerve and regional blocking techniques. Nowadays, due to the potential harmful effects of cocaine and the risk of addiction, the indications for the use of cocaine as an anesthetic are strictly limited. The Coca byproduct popped up in a variety of medicinal and recreational forms in the 1880s. New Yorkers were wild about cocaine, especially those in the medical community. What was believed to be a miracle drug and medical savior that could cure anything was the complete opposite. Cocaine never cured, but in fact only made you feel good for a while. No medical technique with such a short history has claimed so many victims as cocaine, reported the New York Medical Record in 1887. The next important federal regulation was the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act of 1914. While this act is often seen as the start of prohibition, the act itself was not actually a prohibition on cocaine, but instead set up a regulatory and licensing regime. Cocaine was a beast that had to be dealt with, but it wasn't until the fears that Afro-American men were assaulting middle-class Caucasian women whilst being high on cocaine became a false flag that brought in major retractions on the drug. However, legal cocaine quantities did not decrease until the Jones-Miller Act of 1922 put serious restrictions on cocaine manufacturers. Fast forward to 1982, cocaine usage peaks in the United States with 10.4 million users.
And the deals go down quickly. You've just witnessed a buy. This form of cocaine comes concentrated. It is smoked rather than sniffed. It produces an intense high within 5 to 10 seconds that lasts only 5 to 10 minutes and leaves the user craving for more.
And this is the most addicting thing that probably ever existed in the world. You know, it will make you a slave.
This is not one socioeconomic group using this drug. This isn't rich folks or poor folks. It's rich folks and poor folks. And it's blacks, whites, Hispanics. It's across the board. I have never seen a situation like this where a drug has mushroomed so quickly and gotten such a grip on large segments of the population.
Suddenly, the war on drugs took on a whole new meaning. Crack had its greatest appeal among society.
Generation, most people are using crack, using drugs, and it just causes them to do weird things, strange things. You know, kill you for a $10 rock, crack rock. They kill you for anything at all, not think twice about it.
There has been 4 drug-related murders since the first of the year on Drake Place. Disturbances almost nightly.
Uzis, machine guns, you name it.
Spend a day in these neighborhoods of projects and modest homes and you're overwhelmed by the drug sweeps and pushers. So are the people who live here.
Why do you think so many people are getting killed?
From drugs. From drugs.
Why though? What happened?
The drugs, the crack, the drugs, the crack.
I tell my children your father was killed because of drugs, and they know that.
As you know, one of the most critical duties that we faced upon taking office was controlling the influx of illegal drugs into this country. The South Florida Task Force, which we established under the leadership of Vice President George Bush, has, in the opinion of virtually all knowledgeable observers, been highly successful in slowing the illegal flow of drugs into the United States. I'll return to the subject of illegal drug trade in a moment, but let me say now that what was happening in South Florida is an example of the increasing sophistication and power of organized criminal enterprises and the grave danger that they pose to our nation.
Spy on America. Accusations underscore the word accusations that are nothing short of explosive. They are that the CIA knowingly and intentionally did what amount to pump crack cocaine into Los Angeles to help fund rebels in Nicaragua. Whether or not these claims prove true, the anger they produced is very real. The Justice Department and Congress are investigating, and so is CBS.